Today we're going to explore a new bypass technique that was recently discovered to allow you to disable tamper protection in Windows so that you can then turn off antivirus and do whatever malicious actions you want to from there. Now, first, let's address a very common criticism that people probably type in the comments section. And they'll say, oh, this is not stealthy. This will set off alarms. This will make you detected and this and that. Yeah, it will. But here's the thing that the best attackers know. It's not always about stealth. You know, there's times where stealth is actually very important. In those cases, you wouldn't want to use a technique like this. But there are certain situations where you either don't care about stealth or you're willing to take the risks based off of maybe some recon you've done and things like that. Now, imagine this scenario. Imagine that you are a malicious attacker. You're an APT, right? And you want to deploy ransomware against a target. Maybe you're actually spraying this out across the internet, just seeing like what company's employee might click on it and seeing where you can get your ransomware. You don't even care where it fails. You just need to succeed one time. Or even if you're targeting an organization, the reality is this. Ransomware, by definition, doesn't care about stealth because they want you to know, hey, we've hacked you, and now pay us money or you're not going to get your files back. And by the way, if you're not familiar with ransomware, basically it is a type of malware where it encrypts all the files on your system and basically locks them out of their own data. And it basically has a pop-up that says, hey, pay us money if you want to be able to get your files back. And they hold them for ransom. Obviously, in something like that, you're not trying to be stealthy. You're trying to be the opposite of stealthy. You're trying to let them know, like, hey, we hacked you. What are you going to do about it? So let's jump into this lab. Enough talking here. So this is based off of something that I posted recently on my Twitter. And if you're not following me on Twitter, definitely go ahead and give me a follow. I haven't been too active on here, so I don't have too many followers yet, but I'm building that up. I'm going to be posting a lot more high-value stuff and looking to incorporate it in some technical videos. Let me know if you guys like this format. So Sector 7 posted this one here. It was a repost of a blog post on alteredsecurity.com. Very good training provider, by the way. This one was by Munaf Sharif, so credit goes to him. I did not come up with this technique. And definitely, I'll link this to you guys. You can check it out. I recommend to actually read the full article. They actually have a POC tool. I'm going to be showing you manually how to do this bypass technique. So first of all, I have a lab environment that I created for this here. And just to kind of showcase tamper protection, we're going to be using some tools here, so we'll preview there. But if I look here at my virus and threat protection, go into manage settings, we can see that real-time protection is on. Essentially, antivirus is turned on, and this is the one here. Tamper protection is on. Now, the only way that you can disable tamper protection by default is to, without doing any crazy hacking, is to just click in the GUI. Now, if you're deploying ransomware or something programmatically, right, through a script or something, unless you use a technique like this, go deep down into the kernel level, there's no way that you can disable tamper protection without having access to the graphical user interface here. So that would be a problem for ransomware, right? Now, a lot of times ransomware will use like antivirus bypass techniques and things like that, but showcase this here, right? Here's a simple command. And we imagine that we've hacked this server and we have admin rights on the system. That'll be a prerequisite for this technique. This is a simple PowerShell command that I can run to disable real-time protection, disable antivirus. Now, notice I ran this, but nothing happened. Why? Well, because tamper protection is enabled, so I cannot programmatically, simply with a PowerShell command or something like that, disable antivirus. If I turn tamper protection off, it may not reflect in the GUI, but I am actually able to disable, here we go. Yeah, you can see this here, that is now turned off. It made a beeping noise at me as well. And yeah, you see real-time protection is turned off. So tamper protection is what prevents an attacker just from doing it programmatically in a simple way like this, right? So that's just to showcase what that does. Let's go ahead and turn this back on for our lab environment. Now, I'm not going to go through every step of this. He kind of derives how he was able to discover this through his research, and I would definitely recommend to give this a read once again. But basically, the way that tamper protection works is there is a kernel driver called wdfilter.sys that is loaded on system startup. That is what is preventing you from disabling antivirus whenever tamper protection is enabled. And he actually goes as far as to look at the reverse engineer the kernel driver by going into kernel mode with WinDebug and looking at the disassembly. So you can see here that he identifies there's this thing called the altitude number, basically parameters that are set when this thing gets loaded. And so there's a loading and unloading is how these drivers work. So when you load the driver, it does something. When you unload it, it does something, essentially, just to keep things as simple in layman's terms as possible, right? You can see the diagram here that it may be possible to crash. He thought, what if we crashed this driver? So if we can crash or stop the WD filter by deleting this altitude key, then the next time you go to start up the system, and because remember, this runs on startup, it's going to not be able to load proper, or it's not going to even try to load, I should say, because it's going to say, hey, the altitude key is missing. So we're not going to try to load wdfilter.sys. So if that driver is not running, then tamper protection is not going to be enabled anymore. And that's the basic idea. So we want to crash WD filter, and then we want to restart the system so that the system starts up and the wdfilter.sys does not run on startup because that key is missing. That is the basic premise behind it. So we can look at the permissions on WD filter. You can do this programmatically or through the GUI. I'll just show you guys on the GUI, right? So wdfilter.sys is a file that is located in C drive, Windows, System32 folder, drivers folder. You can search it up because there's a lot of files in this folder. So I'll type WD filter and we see wdfilter.sys. If I right click on this, make sure it's selected first, go into properties and security, we can see the different permissions. If I click advanced, it's a little easier to see here. We can see that the only user in our case, and in the write-up it was a little bit different, I believe the system had full control. In our case, only trusted installer has full control. So we will need to impersonate the trusted installer principal in order to gain full access to make whatever modifications we want to this driver. So in order to edit the registry key or delete the altitude registry key, we will need to impersonate the trusted installer. This is something that is possible if we have admin access on the server. That's why I said that is a prerequisite. And we can use a number of tools to do this. We can use psexec, nsudo. I'm sure there's several others as well that I may not be aware of. But I'm going to use nsudo in this case in order to do that. So first step is let me go ahead and spawn a command prompt as the administrator user. And depending on your version of Windows, system might have full access. So if you look, in his case, system had full control. So in that case, you can impersonate the system account. So I am going to, I have nsudo on this system already. So what I'm going to do is go into the launcher 64. I'm going to copy this path here. And let's go into this path. And I'm going to run this command, though I will need to make a modification to it. So first of all, let me remove this quotation. And the user, S would be for system. We want to do T for trusted installer. So now we've spawned a command prompt as the trusted installer user, which it will just show as system. So if I run like who am I, it will show system, but we're actually running as the trusted installer. And from here, we can simply delete the registry key using this command here from the blog post. So do that. And this is what we're looking for here. Operation completed successfully. If I tried to do this as system, it would give us like a access denied. Reasonably assume that was successful. Now, like I said, we need to reboot the server so that it tries to, it skips loading that driver, because right now that driver is loaded still. So easiest way is just doing a restart on the system. We have to give this some time to restart. We should see that the WD filter kernel mini driver fails to load on the next reboot, and that is because, once again, the altitude registry subkey has been deleted, and that breaks its functionality and the driver initialization. And if that is the case, as we'd assume, then we can disable tamper protection with this next, adding this registry key here. All right, I have now logged back into the server, and from here, I can copy this command, But we can also see that it was disabled here, or not disabled, but rather it did not actually start up. As you can see here. And now we can just copy this command, registry add. We're going to add this reg key, which will disable tamper protection. And if you get an access denied, that is because you need to do that in the elevated shell as the system or trusted installer user. So in order to do that, let's just fire up sudo again. Oops, wrong folder. Launcher. And right, get the elevated prompt. And then from the elevated prompt, we will attempt to delete the registry key, or add the registry key, which will disable tamper protection. So that's what we're looking for. Operation completed successfully. Now here's the thing. It will not actually reflect in the GUI right away. So if I look at the virus and threat protection, it appears that everything is enabled at this time, including tamper protection and everything, but really that is not the case. So if I go and I restart the server again, it should update. So if I reboot this again, it should update to show that. Once again, it's not going to reflect in the GUI. And we can do this one as well, which will disable scanning for download files or attachments. And now we can confirm, even though it doesn't show until we reboot, like I said, we can run a command to see the status here. Where's it? It's MP computer status. I always forget this command. Let's see if I can bring it up. Yeah, get MP computer status. This command here will show you the state of the antivirus. So we take a look at this, and what we're looking for is the field that says real-time protection enabled. So false, meaning it's off. So this is what I was saying was kind of interesting. You can see that this will be up to date, but in the GUI, it shows that real-time protection is on when actually it's not. And tamper protection, it shows is on, but obviously it's not because we're able to disable it programmatically. So it's weird that even in the command line, that doesn't update until you reboot the server, I suppose. But just to kind of prove that this is off, right, well, we can test this. Let's download a program that's definitely flagged by antivirus, right? So let's try to download Mimikatz. Like that one, you know, if you can download Mimikatz, then you know the antivirus is not running properly. So let's see here. We'll go into 64 and we'll just download mimikatz.exe. So download, and it'll probably get blocked by Defender Smart Screen, which is a separate thing, by the way. Defender Smart Screen is a separate protection, so we would expect that. So let's just bypass that. There's ways to bypass this as well for another video maybe, but we can see here that we're able to run it, right? And so if antivirus is on, it would be screaming, about Mimikatz being on the system, and I'll move this to another folder, for example. So yeah, you can see Mimikatz here. Let me just rename this really fast. And just to show you, like, I run the program, then it should be scanned dynamically, and it should definitely be detecting it, but nothing happens, right? And that's because, well, we have disabled antivirus. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more techniques like this as you level up, and definitely that's what you need to do in order to get into this field today. It's not enough to just have like OSCP and some basic stuff that thousands of other people have on their resume. So you want to keep elevating your skill set. If you want to path along with that, maybe some guidance, some advice on how you can get into the field. And I'm also giving out freelance contracts, by the way, for people that go through my program. So send me a DM to my Instagram at Elevate Cyber, and we can get you some guidance, get you on the path. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.